Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Kurt Leavins. Welcome, Kurt.
Hello, David. I can
night.
add something, but it's that kind of night.
It is the kind of night. Go ahead.
Defending Stanley Cup champions at the height of their powers tonight, I thought. To give credit where credit's due, I thought the Florida Panthers played one hell of a good hockey game.
They played a brilliant smothering game of dead puck hockey. Kurt,
yeah.
That was the lowest event game of the year for the Oilers. It was the epitome of dead puck hockey. Not a lot happened except in a few explosive moments. Mainly bad things to the Oilers. The grade A shots in the game were 9-7 for the Oilers. Florida just had 7 grade A shots. But when it came to the subset of 5 alarm shots, the most dangerous shots, it was 6-4 for Florida. And I find those particular shots the most dangerous shots. Whoever has the most, like, that really tells the story of the game.
Yeah.
And Florida, when they had a shot, they had some great moments, breakaways. And Calvin Pickard just couldn't come up with a save. Like he had in the previous game, but he couldn't come up with a big save. 7 grade A shots, and he lets in 4 goals on them.
Yeah. Although I've said this to you before we started the podcast, they don't win that game with Stuart Skinner either. I don't think goaltending was a factor on either side of this tonight. All 4 of those goals, there were outside of the empty netter, there were critical defensive errors ahead of all 4 of them. I'm serious. I have a difficult time putting any blame on Calvin Pickard for any of the 4.
Put it this way: based on the way the two teams were playing, where Florida seemed to have the edge, had the jump on the Oilers all night long in terms of winning puck battles.
Yep.
Pretty much all night long.
Yep.
The Oilers goalie would have had to steal the game.
Agreed.
So you're right. Like Pickard, I thought he had a poor game, but lots of players on the Oilers had poor games. He wasn't alone in that. It's across the board. There's players who didn't perform very well. And Florida beat them again to the punch, again and again and again and again and again. And the Oilers couldn't even counterpunch very well. And hence we have a 5-2 score. And They are 1 game from elimination. And they got to go to Florida. Very tough place to win, but they did it once before, so we'll see. Kurt, let's get at it. 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers. At the end, we'll talk about changes that might be made for the final, not the final game, the next game. Excuse me.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
The next game. Yeah. Felt like that tonight, but you never know. Teams, you can never. Here's what I know: you can never count the Oilers out. You can never count them out because they have an incredible, explosive talent and a lot of character, and they will come back and they will fight tooth and nail next game.
It's a 7-game series. And hey, they came back from 0-3 last year, so coming back from 3-2 isn't half as hard, right? So
last year, it felt to me like the Oilers were the better team. This year, as this series has gone along, especially, it hasn't felt that way. And I was referring it to it last game that I was really worried because Florida was starting to dominate more parts of the game, greater percentage of the game, every game. And tonight it came to fruition. They brought their A game. And Florida fans have been saying this, Panther fans, that Florida hadn't yet played their best game against the Oilers. They hadn't really got to the game that they had seen earlier against Tampa when they beat Tampa in the first round. And I think tonight Florida fans will be very satisfied. Anyway, Kurt, let's go. Good thing. Go ahead, unless you want to comment.
Well, I do want to comment on that because I don't think the Edmonton Oilers have played their best game either. And I think that the difference is probably in 2 of the 5 games, Florida has clearly been the best team. And in the other 3 games, it was within mere inches of one another. So has Florida been the better team in this series? Yeah, I think that's fair to say. But I don't think the Oilers have elevated to their true potential either. So there's that.
They haven't. but they haven't. So,
No, they have not.
they've got one last chance. They have not. So I guess that's my fear. Like that,
Yep.
the teams that tend to win are the teams that do elevate to their play their best game, and they dominate the game because of it. They control the tempo. Okay, what's your good thing, Kurt?
Good thing is the McDavid goal, I'm. It's not really that it was a pretty goal. It was a beautiful play. McDavid was really resilient on the play, stuck with it, got down, popped right back up again. Face to face with Bobrovsky, went in and put just a delicious move on him. Pulled it to the left and slid it past him. Lovely goal. But I'm really not picking that as my good thing because of the highlight quality of the goal. Connor McDavid had not scored in the Stanley Cup Finals. And if they're going to have a hope, he's going to have to catch fire in the next 2 games. And so my hope is that McDavid, now having kind of gotten that monkey off his back and has had the feel of a puck going in the net again, that he has a chance to catch fire over the next two games, because they are going to need him desperately to be at his best.
I think they're going to go with Draisaitl and McDavid from here on in. And as Kevin Bieksa said between periods, they needed to see more of that because the play is so tight that they need those guys together to make a play. I think, and we might just see them break out. I thought this was Draisaitl's weakest game of the final, which hasn't, in my view, hasn't been a great final for Leon at all. Although he's put up some points.
He's got 3 goals, an overtime winner. Not sure that's fair.
He does. Yeah, well, but he's not been a strong even strength player. Like he hasn't been getting it done defensively at even strength. Tonight he was okay, but
he was their second strongest. He was their second strongest forward 5-on-5 tonight, David. Right behind McDavid in terms of CF 5v5.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I won't get into my dissertation on stats. I don't put a lot of faith in Corsi as a stat.
I know you don't. What you and I often differ on Leon, which is fine. So,
do you create grade A shots? He didn't all game long at even strength until right at the end when they had a 6-on-5. He helped create 2, but he didn't create 1 grade A shot at even strength all game long. For all the other Oilers forwards who didn't, they're not Leon Draisaitl. You know, McDavid did earlier in the game, and he did on that goal, but Leon didn't. He needs to come alive, Leon. And I know, like his people say he's got all these points. Yeah, he has scored. He's put up points. He's got tremendous skill, but he's got to bring his A game if the Oilers have a hope. I think McDavid was much closer to his A game, and that was a brilliant goal. He had some nice scoring chances early on. The other thing I liked about that goal was Evan Bouchard made a really nice play, and so did Matthias Ekholm. He won a battle, got it back to Bouchard. Bouchard so calmly put it over. It was obviously a really rough game for Matthias Ekholm, but he made a good play there, so I like that.
Yeah, and Bouchard on balance has been good in this final. I think he's probably been their best defenseman.
My good thing is, I thought in terms of hustle, one player stood out, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. I thought he was digging in all game long. He had a great clearance on the PK early on after Bouchard broke his stick. Man, everything seemed so fraught with the Oilers all night long. They just seemed like they were fragile and ready to break. And that was another one of those moments. And he came through and cleared the puck before Florida could take advantage of that. He put it on the power play. He got it going on. He and Perry are starting to work well in the power play where Nuge shoots and Perry tries to deflect it. And he put a deflected shot on net in the second period on the power play, and Perry almost jammed it home. It was a really great chance in the second. It's when they needed to score, and it was so close. Perry almost scored, but not to be. Put one off the post with the goalie pulled, and screened the goalie on Corey Perry's late goal.
And so he had a post earlier in the game too, did he not, David? I remember that right?
McDavid did. When Brown took it to the net, McDavid put it off the post. He might have crit. I'll have another look.
I think he did earlier in the game too. So I think he hit 2 posts. So
he had the level of hustle in the game that many of the Florida players had throughout the game. Florida just had more hustle in this game, and the Oilers didn't match it. Now, and it's like tentative or what's going on. It's hard to say, but he was playing with that needed frenzy that you just gotta have, just going for it, digging in, and many other Oilers forwards weren't doing that. They just weren't really digging in a way that you need to do if you're going to beat the Florida Panthers, who just go for it like no other team in the NHL right now. That's the truth about them. They out hustle and outwork every other team. And the Oilers are being out hustled and outworked. And Nuge was one of the few who raised his level to their level. A lot of other players have got to do that. So I did like his game. I thought he had a good game.
Yeah, you know what? I think your observation could be fairly applied to almost every Oilers skater. At various times through the game tonight, I leaned over to my wife and said, she kept saying, are they playing bad? I said, no, but they're playing tentative. And I felt that all game long, David. And I have a couple theories on maybe why that is, because in front of your home crowd with the chance to take a stranglehold on the series, why wouldn't you come out of the gate shot out like a cannon, right? But they really didn't. And my two theories are, one, I think that Chris Knobloch has been quicker to sit someone down when there's a mistake made than he typically is. Typically, he's a little more patient when it comes to that stuff. And hey, I get it. Bigger stage, bigger games, right? But I think I'm just stating a fact on that. And the fact that the Oilers have been in penalty trouble. They absolutely have. And I couldn't help but think over the start of the game tonight that they looked like they were pulling themselves back because they were afraid of taking a penalty. Like that's the most disengaged I think I've seen Evander Kane play in 3 seasons in Edmonton. And who can blame the guy?
Yeah.
He's been making a regular trip to the box, but there's lots of guys who've been in that same space. So I just wonder if those combination of those things, not really placing blame on anybody. I don't mean, to blame Knobloch. He's just doing what coaches do. But I wonder if all those things added up to just a tentative performance tonight, because that's what I saw. And when you described the hustle of Nugent Hopkins and the relative lack of it with many of the other Oilers, yeah, you know what? I saw the same thing. I agree with you, and that's why my mind begins to twirl as to, well, what would have been at the foot of that? What have been the cause of it?
That's an interesting theory about the penalties, Kurt. The refs have been a massive factor in this series.
Yes,
and Florida is the better team, but the refs have really hammered on the Oilers, and they've caused goals against the Oilers at key moments in this series. There was a couple of things in the first period that were obvious penalties. Stetcher getting run by Bennett, so clearly interference. But anyway, I'm not going to go there again. It is what it is at this point, and they've got to fight through it. Yep. Just like they have to fight through, Zach Hyman not being there, right? It's just part of winning the cup is whatever obstacle comes your way, you fight through it. And the Panthers are fighting through things, and the Oilers aren't right now, and they didn't that game. The Oilers didn't really get frustrated. There was only one moment I thought Leon took a frustrated penalty at the end of the second period there.
Yeah, when he and Kulikov
might have been
the boards, right?
Super tired too. He was, I think he'd been on the ice for a while, but anyway.
Yep.
That was the only undisciplined penalty the Oilers took. They played a disciplined game, but maybe you're right. Just the fear of getting a penalty takes the edge. You're not playing on the edge, on the tip of your skates, because when you play on the tip of your skates and on the edge, the refs start calling you, and you don't have a penalty kill that you can count on, really, do you?
Yeah. Were they disciplined to a fault, right?
Yes. Good way to put it. Too much discipline, not enough go for it. And that actually gives me hope, Kurt, in Game 6, is that backs against the wall, do or die. Time to play some hockey, because that wasn't the Oilers. And it was, it wasn't close to their A game. It was their C- game, D+ game, and a lot of it's Florida, but some of it was the Oilers, and some of it was psychological, I think. Yep. So, and it's hard to get at why that was the case, but it's been 2 games in a row. Like last game too, they came back and won it, but they were totally on their feet. They were totally fragile at the start of the game, not going for it. Why aren't they going for it at the start of the game more?
Yeah.
And even in this game, as you say, they really weren't in the first 10 minutes.
The two first periods were like sequels of one another.
They were. Yeah. Oilers were good in the second. It was the only period where they started to move freely. They had a lot of power plays. That helped. They had more success in the power plays. That gives you momentum. Mm-hmm. But they couldn't get that goal that they needed. They needed a goal then. And let's see who came close. Like I said, there was the Perry play in the second. That was their best chance, the Perry shot. Yeah, McDavid had a good shot. McDavid hit the post, right?
Yes.
On the power play.
He
rang it right off the post. Maybe that's what you're thinking of, Kurt. And Henrique had a shot tip. Skinner threw it at the net, and Henrique got his stick on it. They had 3 great shots in the second period. I mean, they only had 9 all game. All right, your first bad thing.
Well, there was a list tonight, but I decided to pick one out, and I decided to pick the 3-0 goal against.
Okay.
Because there was a huge opportunity. It was 2-0. At 2-0, you're still in it. You're the Edmonton Oilers. You're not out of any game that's 2-0, right? So twice, Florida ices the puck, and so you get ozone draws. They didn't do anything with the first one, but Florida, I'm not sure if it was an icing or it might have been actually a face-off infraction. An offside infraction. But either way, they got 2 offensive zone draws in a row. So your top line comes out. They load up McDavid and Draisaitl. You got Bouchard on the point. This is your opportunity, right?
Yeah.
But what happens? Tied face-off, and Corey Perry, who, look, as a 40-year-old, has had an incredible Stanley Cup playoffs. But on this play, he completely loses his check. And his check is Brad Marchand. And Marchand, just like he did on the first goal, he just steams right through everybody. Bing, bang, boom, it's 3-0. And at that point, the game's over. Like, God bless Connor McDavid.
It's over.
Yeah, God bless Connor McDavid for scoring the 3-1. But at 3-0, it's over. And you had such an opportunity. Florida made so few mistakes in this game. They make one. You get an offensive zone draw. You got your best players out there rested. And a missed assignment on the face-off goes down the other end, and it's 3-0. Backbreaker.
Someone was mentioning that in the Four Nations tournament, Marchand looked slow, and I agree with that. I didn't think he was up to the pace of that tournament, but he's blitzing the Oilers. He looks fastest player on the ice half the time.
He does.
And Perry, I think he cheats on the faceoffs, which is to his credit, right? He's going early.
Corey Perry cheats?
No, Marchand cheats.
Oh, okay.
Marchand goes early.
I was being facetious.
He explodes early.
Yeah.
And I think before the puck's dropped, he's going. And you've got to go then before. If you're up against him, that's the rule. Or back off, so you can angle him, right? Yep. He's going to charge in behind in case the Oilers win it, to get it and go. You're going to don't line up beside him, take a step back, and then you got the angle on him when he cheats. But they're going to have to 2 goals are caused by this.
Yes.
And you can't have that happen for 1 goal. It's so shocking that it happens, right? How often do you see that happen? It hardly ever happens. Mm-hmm. And twice he does it. It's like, man, he was saving it for it's like he's playing possum and then just exploding like Ben Johnson out of the blocks.
Well,
I'm not alleging anything there.
No, I get it. You're right. Marchand had a hell of a game, but those 2 faceoffs, that mistake by Perry and the mistake by Podkolzin on the first goal, that was the kind of tentative I was talking about, and how I wondered about the penalties in previous games had affected them, because normally Podkolzin on the 1-0 goal gets in front of Marchand, right? Instead of just letting them slide past. Same thing with Corey Perry. The Corey Perry I know hacks the guys by the ankles so he can't get past the top of the circle. Well, but in both cases, Marchand just blew past his check, right?
Those 2 plays did epitomize the game. And then then Wallman gets it, but Marchand's on him, and he puts a weird pass over to Bouchard, and it does, like, I can't remember it must have go to the Florida player because Bouchard's caught in no man's land. Mm-hmm. But Wallman's still back.
Yes.
To it's a 1-on-1, and Marchand just walks him.
Yeah.
And he got scorched, and Wallman had an otherwise good game. Like, he didn't make any mistakes. He was solid. But he just got, and again, Pickard failed to come up with the big save. So that's a tough moment for the goalie. Steve Valiquette said, the goalie expert said, in his mind, the series would come down to a few different breakaways and who makes the save and who doesn't. And that's also true about this series, is that Bob has outplayed the Oilers goalies, Bobrovsky has. And in the big moments of the series, when the games have been tight, he has been a step ahead of them, generally speaking, at least in 3 out of 2 games.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that. I think that's fair. Yeah.
The Oilers have had more grade A shots in the series than Florida overall.
Yeah,
they've had more 5-alarm shots, but Florida has scored more goals, so its goaltending has been a factor. It's not like it's been really super close. The Oilers don't have a huge advantage.
Yeah,
but in big moments, Bob, in general, has been better.
Well,
my first bad thing will be. Go ahead.
No, it's okay, Dave. I was done. Go ahead.
My first bad thing will be poor Matthias Ekholm. He's been in his first 5 playoff games, Kurt. He made 1 mistake on a goal against at even strength, 5-on-5. 1 mistake in 5 games.
Wow.
Which for a defenseman that's pretty darn good. Like, that's solid defensive play. In tough circumstances, coming back from injury, and he's looked good to me. I know some people were suggesting that he's looking injured. I'm not really seeing that, and I didn't see that tonight. It was just weird plays that went against him. I mean, he wasn't ready for the face-off. He went right, and Marchand went left. And, Podkolzin didn't slow down Marchand. Marchand was going at full speed. He's got to back up quickly. And he just got beat. He got caught flat-footed off a center ice face-off by a brilliant offensive thrust by Brad Marchand.
Great hustle play. Yeah.
And just what a great play by Marchand. If an Oiler did that, we would be crowing about the play. It was just a great, brilliant play by Marchand. And Ekholm, though, man, poor guy. You've been you are a defenseman, Kurt, when you play hockey. You know what that is like. Everyone who plays defense knows what that is like. It is brutal. It hurts so much to make a mistake like that. And especially when you're Matthias Ekholm, who is a really solid defensive hockey player and has been really good in the playoffs so far. And they're down 1-0. Then he gets the puck at center ice, and he can't get it deep. He just muffs on it. He muffs on it during a line change. He fails to get it deep. And man, was that the story of the Oilers? That's the tentativeness we're talking about, right? Like the weird fragility and tentativeness and not being able to make obvious plays like they can make, the lack of sharpness, the lack of confidence. Wow, it's kind of shocking. And that's what happened on that play. And what happens next? It's a rush in, but again, it's a fairly controlled rush on a certain level. Like, who was back? There was a defenseman. Nurse was back, and Ekholm was back. They were both back. 2 defensemen were back, and it was Wallman. No, it was Wallman and Ekholm. Excuse me, because Wallman blocks the shot, right?
It was,
and then it was Wallman. He blocks the shot,
and then Janmark blows his check.
Janmark, he's out there for one reason. Like, he's supposed to be the defensive specialist, and he is puck watching. He's not shoulder checking to see the danger man creeping into the slot. He's watching the puck. All he has to do is take a step back, and it's an easy check to make on Bennett, but he fails to do it because he's puck watching and it's in the net. That is the major mental mistake on that goal against. I know Ekholm is getting the heat for it, but Janmark's play on it was the most significant mistake. Just a breakdown in fundamental hockey, and they're scorched again. There's not a save. It's a really tough shot for Pickard. All the goals are really tough shots for Pickard. Every single goal that Pickard let in was a 5-alarm shot. Every single one were the highest quality of shots. So when you say you don't really blame him, yeah, fair enough. But even on the highest quality shots, NHL goalies on average stop 2 out of 3. So that's where I'm at with it. Anyway, Janmark blows it, and then it's in the net. He was also a culprit on the 4th goal. Perry loses the puck behind the net. McDavid allows the pass out, and both Ekholm's slow to make the read, and Perry comes rushing out, and both of them end up screening their goalie, and it goes in the net, the shot, which is, again, a screenshot like that. There was 3 players screening Pickard. So poor Matthias Ekholm, like, that is a hell of a thing to have a game like that on the biggest stage in one of the biggest moments of your career. He doesn't usually play that way. Ooh. So I have nothing but sympathy for the guy to have those kinds of breakdowns happen. If Janmark had only made the play right, then we'd only be talking about one.
Yeah.
But now it's compounded, because it was just really the one play that Marchand beats him in a microsecond, in a weird play off a face-off, right?
Yep.
If you just been a step closer to
that, and if the forward makes his check, Marchand doesn't even get to him. So yeah, yet Ekholm ends up -3 on the night. Yeah, you were talking about
plus 1 because he was on the McDavid goal. Was he still -3? Maybe
he was. He was.
Go ahead, Kurt.
Yeah, you were talking. You were talking about me being a defenseman. I remember playing a very high level game, and the best player on the other team is Darren Kimball. Remember him?
Yeah.
Played in the NHL for
years.
He
was a pretty tough guy, wasn't he?
Real super tough guy. Darren was also a terrific hockey player with a great big slap shot. And I remember playing a really high level game with him, and it was a close game. It was like 1-1 or 2-1 or something like that. And I threw a pass up the middle, and I didn't see him coming, and he was coming like a freight train the other direction, blew right past me like I wasn't even there, and beat our goaltender. Game over. So it's kind of like, so yeah, I know how it feels when all of a sudden a mistake that you make goes the other way, and you feel shame, as they say in Slapshot. So
my memories are very fresh, Kurt. I play like twice a week in a vintage hockey, which is an absolutely fantastic hockey league in Edmonton for over 55s.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, some of these guys can really fly. They can really still move. And man, this has happened to me off a face-off, just like that. Just that's like, what? Because you're flat-footed, you're standing still, right? You're just not, and you're, oh man. I have a lot of sympathy for defensemen. Maybe not for those forwards like Draisaitl so much, Kurt, who don't help the defensemen.
You don't say.
Listen, I want Leon to succeed as much as anyone and bring his best game. And I just like it's just not happening. And I don't know why it's not like, it's not. They just, it's part of the general malaise of the team. It's not just him. It was all of them tonight, except for 2 or 3 guys
100%.
Who played their usual game.
Yep.
So let's put it that way. All right. Your second bad thing, Kurt.
I'll pick on Corey Perry. And when you look at the aggregate ice time tonight, the big guys kind of played until their tongues hung out. And they really kind of mostly went with 2 lines. When you look at the ice time breakdown, it's the top lines play a lot. And I thought for the first time in these playoffs, I thought Corey Perry looked tired. And hey, if I was still 40, damn straight I'd be tired in playing in Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final. But you know what? In 2 examples tonight, it was a lost puck battle on his behalf that triggered the play in the other direction and ended up with a goal against. And here's where I say I have nothing but respect for Corey Perry's game now that he's on my team. And you normally never see him lose those battles. Kind of like our comments on Matthias Ekholm. That was a highly irregular game for him. Well, same for Corey Perry. Usually he digs in with the old man strength and is strong in a stick and doesn't lose those puck battles. The fact that he lost his man twice tonight made me think, that's not a mental mistake on his part. He's probably the smartest guy on the ice. I wonder if he's just out of gas. And frankly, I thought all of the Oilers' big guys looked like they were out of gas by the end of the game.
Well, isn't that the Florida thing, the Maurice comment, like hit him, so they got nothing left in game 7. Well, we're only at game 5 and they didn't have a... I thought McDavid was actually flying pretty good. I thought he brought a really... he was attacking off the top of the game and came close early on, but then they all got bogged down. Yeah. And their power play, like, you can't... they're not getting it that, like... It's interesting. Florida seems to, you'd have to, I might watch the power plays more closely. They're not getting able to set up Leon for his big shot again, right? Like he had one and he missed the net. And that's just not, they're not able to find him. And someone's doing a great job of taking that away. 2 or 3 guys, I think, are just, they're really focused on taking that away. So they have to do other things, which is like Nuge shooting and Perry trying to tip it in. That's what's there, coming down the other side of the ice and taking a shot. But it's not as dangerous as when Draisaitl does, but they have completely taken that away.
Yeah, Florida's far superior. Yeah, Florida's a far superior team in this series at taking away seams than the Oilers are in their end. It's not, to me, that's one of the biggest differences between these two teams, is we see seam passes from Florida going back and forth all the time, but it's not happening in the Oilers' end. And I thought their first power play stunk. I thought their second power play was a wee bit better, but not much. I thought they probably deserved better out of their third power play. They got some looks, but after their power, in fact, when they were going into the third power play, I thought if they don't score in this, they're sunk. And sure enough, they did.
Yeah, I think it might have been on that first power play. That was it. The first one or the second one?
It wasn't the first one.
It was that Perry had his cat. Yeah, wasn't the first. Oh God, that was, and you just knew they were going to get scored on quickly after that. I just had this sinking feeling after that first power play where they weren't hardly in the Florida zone, and Bouchard was outworked for the puck in his own end, and the other guys were outworked for the puck in their own corner. Yeah. And I just thought, like, they're in disarray right now, and they're going to get scored on here. And they did, right? It happened a couple minutes later. That was a nightmare situation. Okay, Kurt, this is interesting because, the Oilers aren't a team that is focused on hitting until the playoffs came. And Zach Hyman was a one-man hit machine. And again, good teams fight through the loss of great players. Zach Hyman was one of the Oilers' 2 or 3 best players in the first 3 rounds. He was fantastic.
Agree.
And it was his hitting. Man, have they missed it. And no one's picked it up. So tonight, like, let's look at the hits. So Nuge and McDavid had 0 hits, but I don't expect them to hit. But Ekholm, not 1 hit. Darnell Nurse, not 1 hit. Wouldn't that be nice to see Darnell Nurse hit? Have 8 hits like he does like he's had in the past. Like, he's not hitting. Victor Arvidsson, 0 hits. Troy Stetcher, 0 hits. Corey Perry, 1 hit. Evan Bouchard, 1 hit. You kind of expect that. Henrique had 3 hits. I still like Henrique's game.
Just 2 out of Kane.
I was getting there. Kane, 2 hits. Like, when was the last time, since the first game, really, when we saw him clobber Ekblad, when was the last time Evander Kane has gone in on the forecheck? And this is what I'm getting at. The Oilers' inability to dump the puck in, get in there on the forecheck, and hammer Florida. That was a hallmark of them in their first 3 series. They did it repeatedly to LA, Vegas, and Dallas Stars. And this series, and it starts way before then, right? Because they're not even close to that kind of play. It's not like they're failing dump-ins, or they're reluctant to dump it in. I think that they want to do it, but they're not getting it. Florida's smothering them because their defensemen, it all starts with Florida's forecheck. They are so disorienting to the Oilers defensemen at this point. The Oilers defensemen are tentative. They're throwing it up the boards. They're not making plays like Paul Coffey insisted that they make when he came here. They've got to start taking, I think Bieksa and Harudi were saying this, start taking some chances to make plays. And the defensemen, I think we'll see a change there because of this. But they've got to start to try to make more offensive plays, those defensemen, and maybe beat someone who's coming in, and then make a nice pass, break out, dump it in, and get in there and hit. Trent Frederick, to me, was, again, I thought he played better last game, but he was invisible tonight. Absolutely. Did he play? Like, there's just, and that's not just him. There's all kinds of forwards. Arvidsson, did he play? Where was Kane? He did draw a penalty at one point, but did he play? Like, there's too many. Podkolzin had 7 hits, but other than that, no one was doing it, and they will not win. They won't come close to winning if they can't get that forecheck going.
The one comment I have that speaks to your observation is that the Oilers, for all that game and for too much of the previous game, have played this game along the walls. And I don't think you can beat Florida along the walls. I think you need to beat them in the middle of the ice.
They've got to get skating. They've got to get flowing. And if it leads to a grade A shot or a 5-alarm shot against, so be it. You're going to need your goalie to make a big save. Yep. You got to start going for it. They went for it in the second period of the last game, right? Nurse came alive. All these other players came alive.
Because they had to. They were desperate, right? So.
Yeah. And they didn't, even though they were desperate tonight, they couldn't play that. They couldn't raise their game. So that's a little bit scary, Kurt. That's a little bit scary. All right. Numbers. What's your number?
My number is 5. That's 5 games in a row that the Oilers have allowed 2 or more goals in the first period. And if you're going to be chasing the defending Stanley Cup champions as much as they've chased Florida in the series, you won't win it. Pure and simple.
I didn't know that. So against Dallas, that happened. Oh no, 5 games in a row, all against Florida.
Yeah. All 5 games.
2 goals in the first period.
2 goals in the first period. That's a bad formula.
That is not good. That is not good. All right, Kurt. My number is 1. They're 1 game towards elimination. It has been, in many ways, a fantastic season for the Oilers. They played brilliant hockey to beat LA, Vegas, and Dallas. I thought they were going to win the Cup. But Florida is just this machine. They are a machine. And the good news is they only have to win 2 games in a row, Kurt, to do it. And they're fully capable of beating Florida 2 games in a row.
They are.
They can win 1 game on puck luck, right? The Oilers didn't get a bounce, hardly got a bounce tonight. Maybe they'll get the bounce. Maybe they'll get the early play. Maybe someone on their team's going to step up like Marchand did early on. Maybe it'll be Leon Draisaitl, on the wing. And because Leon is capable of taking over a game. I guess this is why I'm critical of him, because I have super high expectations for him. He can be the player, that absolutely dominant 2-way player in the playoffs. He can be that guy. Like Sam Bennett. Why is Sam Bennett outplaying Leon Draisaitl? Like, he shouldn't be. Draisaitl has everything Bennett has and more. He's got to bring Sam Bennett's intensity and fury to the game next game and bring that game, because he can do that and he needs to do that. So yeah, I'm critical of Draisaitl, but they will not win unless he brings that game next game. McDavid brought it tonight to some extent. If Leon cranks it up and they're together on a line, Florida will have a hard time handling them, and the Oilers can win. And then they can win again in Edmonton. So that's what has to happen for the Oilers to win, in my mind, is their best players to be the best players on the ice. And that wasn't the story, and it hasn't been the story many games this Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, you know what? I think their best players are right now being better than our best players. I think that's a fair comment. You and I can argue more about Leon in the summer, but I think at the end of the day, your comment, best players versus best players, you're right, and I think the 3-2 lead in the series speaks to that. I do have some positivity going forward because Florida has been a great road team in these playoffs. Like they've been dominant, but at home, Florida's just 5-4. In the playoffs. They barely have a winning record, whereas the Oilers are 7-4 on the road. they've been a good road team and just proved that they can beat Florida in their own building. So, there's some numbers there that give us some hope. And as I said earlier in the podcast, hey, it's not a 5-game series, it's a 7-game series. And so I'm glass half full when it comes to this. I saw this game mostly the same way you did. I think we agree on most things. But yeah, we do need to see a different Oilers team in Game 6 for sure.
Yeah, I'm the kind of fan now. Like I don't live and die with it, Kurt. Like I don't take the losses personally. When I was younger, I did. Like it would, I would like feel it, and I would feel the wins. I would be like jubilant, elated.
Yeah.
I'm happy when they win now. But what I feel now is for these players, like I want them to win for themselves. Like I think they have been working and working. They're such great hockey players, and I think if they just bring their A game, they can win. And you know what? If someone had said the Florida Panthers are going to get 7 grade A shots, 6 of them will be 5 alarm shots, but they're going to get 7. And do you think the Oilers will win? I would say, yeah, that's the Oilers' best defensive game. They're going to win. It's just one of those games, man. Like, yeah, they couldn't come up with that. Pickard would have had to stand on his head a few times, and then they would have had to get some puck luck a few times. And that's the only way you win this game, because Florida was the better team tonight. But maybe next game it'll go their way, and maybe Stuart Skinner. So let's move to this. Like the moves are going to make it. They'll go back to Skinner, obviously.
Yep, I think it was right to go with Pickard, but then I totally agree with Skinner for Game 6. And you go ahead, but I have an overall theory about the lineup for Game 6.
That's why you have 2 goalies, right? Like you needed 2 goalies because you knew from last year you couldn't necessarily count on Skinner, so you needed 2 goalies. Pickard did his bit. He came in and he won that game, and he deserved this game, and he got it, and he did his best. It wasn't good enough. Now it's time to go back to Skinner. He needs to come up. Like he can come up with a huge game now and then, Stu Skinner. He needs to do that. Yeah. So for me, I don't like, so who was, Kapanen. I think Kapanen gets back in the game. I'm not sure who comes out. Maybe it'll be Arvidsson. He made one good play where he outraced an icing call, Arvidsson. He stood out in that moment because of hustle, right? There was so few hustle plays, and that was one of them. Frederick, again, I'm just not seeing it because I think he's injured and there's no explosiveness there. I'm just not seeing it with that player. And I think Klingberg goes in for Stetcher. What do you think?
My overall view is I think in a do or die game, you just have to put your best players on the ice. So I think at this point, earning the next game is non-existent now. I think what you did last game is almost irrelevant. I think the coach owes it to his team to just put the best players on the ice and give yourselves the best chance to win. And so I do think that means putting in your number 1 goaltender. And I do think it means putting John Klingberg back in, who, with all due respect to Troy Stetcher, who leaves it all out there and gives you every ounce that he's got. But John Klingberg's a better hockey player. And so in order to give yourself the best shot at winning in Game 6, I think Klingberg has to play. And now that he's had a little bit of rest, Klingberg, hadn't played in a long time and then was injured again. So, he might be a little fresher. And as for the forwards, I agree. Kapanen should come back in. I'm not really sure who he should come in for. I think probably Arvidsson. But what I like about the idea of Kapanen coming back in is whenever Kapanen has come out of the press box, he's come out of the press box like he was shot out of a cannon. So I think you might get some energy out of him, which will be really important to have some energy in Florida for Game 6.
I'm just not feeling it with Frederick. Like the goals aren't going to come. Like they need to score a goal, and Arvidsson's a better player than Frederick, I think, right now, and especially Frederick injured. And I can't comment on Frederick when he's not injured, but I think Arvidsson's a better player. I would take Frederick out. I don't expect that to happen, but that's what I would see, and put Kapanen in, because Kapanen's scored some goals in the playoffs. So they need go with some guys. Goes with the guys who have scored, and keep Jeff Skinner in, because he played again. He was hustling and he was good, and he can play.
Yep.
So they need more on the attack. They're missing Hyman on the attack. Kapanen kind of has that kind of Hyman get in there and hit. But Frederick doesn't have that get up and go right now to get on his horse and go hit someone. He'll hit someone situationally, but because he's injured, he can't do it. And I just think the time is now. Okay, Trent, you've given us, we got to win this game. We're putting in Kapanen for you.
Yeah. What I really like about Frederick is he's so dependable defensively, but I'm buying what you're selling, even though I'm not sure I'd make that switch. I hear what you're saying. At this point, you got to score a goal, right? And I do think it's fair to say that Arvidsson gives you a better chance of doing that.
Yeah, his slap shot alone, right? Like he might get lucky with the slap shot and hammer it home. They just need one goal from a guy like that, you know, and then the big guys are going to have to score 2 or 3, and then they're going to have to hold the fort. If they can get 3 goals and hold the fort, like they could win 3-2 in Florida. So that's it. They got to get a goal from one of these other guys, Kane or Arvidsson or Kapanen, or Skinner or Henrique. And then they got to get 2 goals between McDavid and Draisaitl in the power play. Like they're in on 2 goals. They don't have to score them necessarily. So it'll be someone else possibly, but that's how they win. They win a 3-2 game that way. And they got to find that goal scorer.
Yeah, no debate on that. I think you got it nailed. If you get a power play and a 5-on-5 goal from the McDavid Draisaitl unit, and you get a depth goal from somewhere else, even from one of your blue liners, right? Like you did from Wallman in the previous game, and you get a big game from Stuart Skinner. All of a sudden, it's game 7, and all bets are off, right? So.
The surest sign the Oilers will win is if they can get like that outside garbage goal that goes in through a screen and beats Bob that way. Like that'll set Florida back. It's a psychological blow. Get that goal early on. Put pucks at net. Fire those pucks like Skinner did off the boards when Henrique tipped it.
I like
it was
that.
One of the few times I actually tried to make that play. It was the right instinct. You know, don't go for the perfect play. Simple hockey. Get the puck in. Pound them. Win the puck. Put it at the net. Go to the net. That's the only way you're going to beat Florida is with super direct, aggressive attacking hockey. And you're not going to, like, I'm not saying the defensemen shouldn't try to pass their way around the Florida forecheck. That's how you beat that forecheck, is with brilliant passing and skating. But in the offensive end, when you get over that red line, direct hockey, because their defensemen are not super fast. And I think you can get on them, and I think you can forecheck that team and get some goals that way.
Yeah. And, you know, this sounds like a bit of a Hail Mary, but a bit of puck luck, too. Like, if either one of those McDavid posts hits the post and goes in instead out, the game looks and feels a little different, right? And that's just the way the game works. It's the same for both sides. but it was pretty clear that the Oilers weren't getting any bounces tonight. And critics will say, well, you have to earn your own bounces. And I think that's 100% fair as well.
Puck luck played a role, obviously, because now the Oilers had the 9 grade 80 shots to 7 for Florida, but some of that is score effects. Florida, if they had to pour it on tonight, I got the sense they could have, and they could have had more grade A shots, but they were playing a very smart, cautious game as it went along, and they played it well.
I think that's very objective of you. I think I see it the same way.
Yeah, if Florida needed to have, let's say, 12 or 13 grade A shots to win, I think they would have got it tonight.
Yep.
All right. Final thoughts? Anything?
Want to argue about Leon more? I'm just kidding.
We don't have much. I don't think we have much of an argument. Maybe we have an argument. I don't know.
I'm just teasing you.
I'm looking at the grade A shots. I'm tallying them up, and I see I'm doing like the grading tonight. So I'm like 5 minutes left in the third period. I'm looking at the grade A shots. Not one from Leon. Not one on the power play. Not one at even strength. This is a guy who's usually in on 6 grade A shots a game, and he is not in on 1. So this is why I'm saying, like, no, he wasn't good tonight. He was poor. He's not close to what he can be, and even by, not even his own standard was he close to being where he needed to be. So they need Leon Draisaitl big time to step up, and it could happen.
Here's my rebuttal.
I guess we are going to argue about Leon.
Here's my rebuttal. So let's say that I give you tonight. Right? Let's just say I give you that argument. Going into this game, the leading candidate for the Conn Smythe Trophy was Leon Draisaitl. That's why, David, with the greatest respect, I just think your overall argument on him fails. He has been the best Oiler in the playoffs. And is it fair of you to say that he didn't produce in this game? It's absolutely fair of you to say that. But I just think people are, and it's not just you that I think there's a lot of people that are ignoring what he's done in these playoffs. And I just think it's lacking some context.
So I'm not saying the playoffs. I'm saying the final. I just don't think he's brought his best two-way game throughout the final.
Yeah.
I think in the playoffs, especially in the early rounds, he was fantastic. He was killing it. Leon was great. But
well, you and I
in this final series,
we see the start of this series.
It.
We just agree to disagree then, David, because I think,
Yeah.
the fact is he has produced in this series. Did he produce tonight? No, you're right. But who has the most goals for the Oilers in the finals?
Fair enough, Kurt. He scored. He has come through on the attack. And even that overtime goal, the other night, like people were kind of lucky fluke. Man, I was watching it again. I was so impressed with how he whipped that puck with one hand. He held off the player with one hand.
Yeah.
So
I think he shoots the puck harder with one hand than I did with two.
Leon's had some great moments on the attack in the final. So for sure, like there's no denying it. He's made some nice passes. He's scored some big goals in the final. No doubt about it. But his defensive play has been really lacking, is what I would say in the final. And there's been some key moments in key games where it's been lacking. So if he gets that down, and if he's on the wing, it's not such a big deal. But when he's centering his own line, it is a big deal. So, all right, Kurt.
Had enough.
We should leave it there. Oh, I could go on and on, but
it's all good.
I want him to do well, so let's just leave it there.
I know you do.
Okay. Kurt, thanks for talking tonight.
It's always a pleasure. It's good fun. Thanks, Dave.
And in the meantime, and in between time, and until we meet again, Bruce McCurdy in the Hall of Our Fathers, having a lot of drinks tonight, I think, with the hockey gourds. This has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.